Ladies and gentlemen, it's lovely to have you with us. I love the gentleman at the back with a big smile. um, thank you very much, and welcome to our event here at the Restoration Pavilion. And we are working on the paths to restoration today. We'd like to introduce inspiring initiatives. We want to showcase the work that can be done by people who are on the ground and have had access to these small grants. So it's the power of enabling through financing. So we have with us three of the grant winners, and they hail from the Gambia, Cameroon, and Argentina. And also joining us today is Joanne Lee, who is going to be taking us through the grant program as well, so we can learn a little bit more about it. So all of the projects you're going to hear today have been funded by the GLI Small Grants Program in Cameroon. Now, we want to raise awareness. Many people will say we don't know where to get the money, or we can't crack the mechanisms, the admin that allows you the access to these grants. So hopefully we'll demonstrate that they can promote scalability. They can replicate, hopefully you can see how the examples that you see today can be replicated globally. And when targeted appropriately, they can be scaled up as well. And ultimately, sorry, had some technical problems today. And ultimately, the goal is lasting environmental change. So it's resilient restoration. There's no point supporting a system or a project for 6 months or 12 months and then leaving bare earth, essentially. So joining us today, we have Ebrima Jara from the Gambia. He is the Executive Director of the Soil Association. Welcome. And Ebrima will be discussing using oyster shell meal to address soil acidity and its role in crop yield improvement. We also have Ana Di Prangrazio, I'm hoping that was said correctly, from Argentina, Deputy Director of the Foundation Ambient y... I will let you say that. Say that. Rescuros?
Ambiente y recursos naturales.
Nearly, but not quite. Thank you. Thank you. And Anna will be sharing initiatives, for example, stories from Santa Catalina, focusing on educational efforts to enhance public connection to wetlands. I love a wetland. And then also hailing from the Cameroon in this glorious traditional wear, wonderful to see, is Sunday Jeffrey Mbafombe, who is the founder of Support Humanity Cameroon, describing efforts to establish a solar-powered nursery. Sounds pretty obvious, doesn't it? Use the resources that you have to put it back into the land. So a solar-powered nursery and the benefits it has for sustainability and community resilience. So we are going to begin, please, by an introduction to the small grant system from Joanne Lee. Joanne, please.
Thank you so much, Luquessa. And I think I'll stand here so I can see my PowerPoint. Thank you. So welcome, everyone. Good morning. My name is Joanne Lee from the G20 Global Land Initiative. And I just wanted to introduce you to our small grants program. We launched this program in February earlier this year. And we wanted to have this program because civil society organizations are not contributing to a lot of land degradation in the world, but they're doing a lot of work to restore that land and protect that land. So that's why we wanted to contribute in some way and support them in their efforts. And they also not only have environmental benefits, but a lot of these NGOs are pursuing social and economic benefits in their communities. So we launched this program. As you can see here, the initiative will support 41 field restoration projects this year, and the grants will range between $5,000 to $15,000 US. And civil society organizations from any region of the world, they don't necessarily have to be a G20 country. We actually give preference to the least developing countries. They have to be involved in community actions to restore land. So those were the eligibility criteria, and we also gave preference to those who are accredited with the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, or UNCCD. And so you can see here the breakdown of the ones who received 15,000, the 13 received 10,000, and then 14 received 5,000. So this is a further breakdown by region. You can see most of the grants, or most of the applications. We received 673 from 100 countries. 55% came from Africa, and 22% came from Asia, 11% from South America, 7% from Europe, 3% from North America, and 2% from Oceania. And this is a further breakdown of the ones who received each distribution. And for the future, we hope to expand this program so that we can provide grants to more organizations. And we also hope to increase the funding because, maybe $5,000 will be a great contribution to some organizations, but, it's definitely not enough, right? Because a lot of restoration efforts take a lot more money than that. And a lot of these NGOs are already underfunded. And we also hope with greater impact through these grants that we can have more sustainability for these supported projects so that they can last longer and make greater contributions to their organizations. So we hope to relaunch this program sometime in 2026, early on in that year. And so I hope that you do stay in touch with us through our newsletter on g20land.org, and so that you can receive updates on when we do relaunch this program. But we have here our 3 finalists for the program, and so I look forward to really hearing about their projects further. So thank you so much.
Joanne, thank you very much indeed. So let's crack on and actually hear and find out more about the programs and the work that is being done on the ground. I'm going to introduce now a gentleman who believes that his mission is to work with civil society, with governments, private sector and others to address socioeconomic challenges that are related to land, food systems and also the ecosystem within local communities in Africa. So he's got quite a mission ahead of him. I don't know if it's a mission impossible, but we certainly want to know how he's cracked it. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Gambia, please welcome Ebrima Jara, the Executive Director of the Soil Association. Please.
Okay, thank you, Madam Moderator. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ibrahim Ajara, and I come from the Soil Solution, not Soil Associations, Soil Solutions. We are an NGO registered in the Gambia with a mission of protecting and rehabilitating lands in the Gambia and also beyond. So I'm going to present to you today. Okay. So I'm going to present to you today that since I came here on the 4th, attending all the presentations that are made here on land and it's related, I believe that reviving lands is not only for the land but also reviving lives and also the ecosystems. So in the Gambia, we've able to launch a project called the Africa Soil Strength Program, which I'm going to present today. But just to show you that this is the nature of land in the Africa south of the Sahara at the moment. Africa south of the Sahara, according to the FAO agroecological zoning, excludes only the north of Africa. And if you look at that picture here, all the green zone is showing you the Africa south of the Sahara, which includes the Western Africa, the Eastern Africa, Middle Central Africa, and the Southern Africa. So it says 23 to 30% of the lands in this region are already degraded. 74% are faced with serious fertility problems or limitations. Over 700 hectares or 700 million hectares of this land already degraded and costing about 68 billion of our GDP. If you look at the gross domestic product of this region, it's been lost. 68 billion of this region's GDP is being lost due to land degradations and serious fertility limitations. And in Africa, it is expected that we have about 674 million farmers. Among these, 600,000 are in the Gambia because Gambia is a small country. So about 600,000 of these farmers are in the Gambia. Gambia is like 2 million people or 2.4 million people. So out of these 2.4 million people, 600,000 are smallholder farmers. And about 270 million people in the continent are actually hungry, meaning some of them find it difficult to have food and they go to bed hungry. How do we solve this problem? So we've designed an approach here, and we believe, and our philosophy is that land restoration is not just environmental, but it is also social and economical. Because when you restore this land, you are able to improve productivity of these farmers, and then you are also increasing their profits. So our approach is putting community at the center or at the heart of decision making. How do you make sure that community is taking ownership of the initiatives that you implement in their society? Is including them, putting them at the center of what you do. The second is partnership. We believe that no single institution or individual can do it alone or all alone. So therefore, we have to collaborate. We have to partner with governments. We have to partner with the civil society, with the scientific community, NGOs, and others in order to be able to do the work that is expected to be done. The third one is sustainability. We believe that sustainable practices are very important for us to be able to implement, to achieve our objective. That is to restore lands and then revive lives. And then we believe that some of the most important age range, that is the youth, are very important in what we do. Because if you look at the Western Africa, this is a region where our young people believe that the grasses are only greener in the West, and they are dying in the Mediterranean, trying to cross the sea, the Red Sea to Europe, to find jobs in the fields, in the farms. So we believe that by reviving the land, these young people can now have an option of staying home and cultivating food in their homes. And they are going to be productive, but also profitable. So we've designed a project called the Africa Soil Strength Program, which I believe is an intergenerational, comprehensive, but very simplified program. How does it work? This is a program where we identify lead farmers or champion farmers that somebody may call them. Work with these farmers, building their capacities on various sustainable soil management models, soil science principles, soil testing methods, and provide them with soil testing kits for them to be able to do some basic soil research. And they are going to be responsible, when they graduate, they are going to be responsible of training other farmers in their own community. They don't have to travel, so nobody have to travel, but they are going to be training farmers in their own community and helping them to conduct some basic research, making informed decisions on their land use. So the program is actually intended to smallholder farmers and farmers that are very, very committed in the area. So the objective is to increase the productivity of these farmers, contribute to economic sustainability, and also their social lives. We intend to work with indigenous communities to implement scalable solutions. So I'll just go to the next slide, which is actually the building blocks. So we've designed this program into two fundamental blocks. The first block is the Soil Doctors Program, which actually is an initiative of the Global Soil Partnership. And in this program, we identify farmers, like I said, train them on various sustainable soil management models. It's a farmer-to-farmer training program. We are not going to be involved at the end of the day. We are not going to be there telling them, you have to train this, you have to do this. We are going to train these farmers to be doctors to the soil, just like how me and you have doctors. We want some soil also to have doctors. So these doctors are going to be responsible of their soil management in their own communities. And they are going to be responsible of building the capacity of other farmers in their own communities as well. So at the end of the day, we will have a very resilient community in the face of climate. And this is going to help them in terms of their productivity. The second pillar is actually looking at the soil information system, whereby we believe that by implementing the first pillar, that is training farmers, conducting research, gathering information and all of that, this information needs to be managed, well managed. And then this is why we think it is important to have the second block, which is the soil information system, whereby all the data generated through the first phase is going to be stored and managed in the soil information system. So what are the problems that we are solving? These are the problems. If you look at Africa, we have serious threats to soil. And some of these threats is soil erosion, which actually causes about 46% of degradation in Africa. Either water, wind, or other tillage practices are actually causing erosion. And the second is actually soil acidity. Countries like the Gambia, where we have very limited land and farmers have only these lands to cultivate. So they have actually been relying on this land for their production for the past generations. And when that happens, when there is prolonged cultivation of the soil without proper management, then the soil becomes acidic, very acidic. So in the past, we've conducted a soil fertility mapping in the Gambia, and then we realized that most of our results, the acidity is always below 5, which means it's very acidic. And if that happens, it's going to actually affect the whole soil ecosystem, and that is not good for production and also not good for the ecosystem. We have soil nutrient mismanagement or imbalance, somebody may call it, where you have extreme or too much of a particular mineral which is actually overshadowing the other minerals that crops need to develop and grow. So these are all other problems of soils, but I'll just go quickly to the next slide, which actually have to do with the G20 Global Land Initiative grant. So last year we worked with a university in the USA called the University of DC, and they got us a grant from the US government. So we were able to restore 30 hectares of acidic soils in the Gambia. This is actually targeting only acidic soil, okay? But it's going to help other problems. It's going to help solve other problems in the soil as well, like the organic matter, the solidifications and others. Is going to help solve those problems. So we were able to restore 30 hectares of land in the Gambia, working with more than 30 smallholder farmers, and this was very, very amazing. The results were very, very amazing. We've realized about 100% increment in their production, but also neutralization of their soil acidity was also realized. So we applied for the G20 for expansion, and then this is what we are going to be doing with the G20 grant. We want to restore more than 50 hectares of land, acidic land, with the G20 grant. We want to also train and improve soil management capacity of these smallholder farmers. The second is to address critical issue of soil acidity, which is a major limiting factor. It's a major limiting factor to the production capacity of these farmers. Now, what do we use to do this? What is the product that we use? We've actually conducted a series of research in the Gambia to see what can we use in order to attenuate the problems of soil acidity. And then we realized there is a massive disposal of oyster cells in the Gambia. Now we collected the samples of these oyster cells. We take it to the laboratory, analyze it, and then we realize large storage of calcium, okay, calcium carbonate in it. But also when it is fresh, it has nitrogen in it. We wanted to solve acidity. The questions that we wanted to answer were, how much oyster do you need to apply in a particular land size in order to be able to neutralize it? And the second question that we wanted to solve was, what should be the grinding level? Like, what should be the fine level of the oyster for it to be able to easily adopted by crops in the field and also perform the ultimate objective? So these were the questions that we were trying to answer. So last year we have 2 phases of the project. The other one was working with the communities, and the other one was strictly on research, where we actually designed a research and then conducted the research of the oyster application in it. So now we are going to still continue to use these oyster cells in the G20 project to actually restore the acidity of the land, because now we are able to answer the questions, how much oyster we need, what is the grinding level, and so on. Okay? So we want to also scale up the program, and this is the financial projection, okay? We want to make sure the program is not only implemented in the Gambia, but also beyond the Gambia. We want to make sure it is implemented in Guinea, in Senegal, in Ghana, many, many countries in Africa. And we need finance, but we need limited finance. We don't need billions of dollars. No, we don't need tens of millions of dollars. No, we only need small money. That is just $2 million, $2.3 million. We will be able to scale up the program. And this is going to help us to actually achieve the objective of training soil doctors, establishing soil information systems, and even setting up demonstration sites or research fields for these particular farmers and other research endeavors. So this is the sustainability plan. We believe that training the soil doctors alone is very, very sustainable. Having that knowledge inculcated in the minds of these farmers is going to stay with them for generations. And this is why when I started, I said it's an intergenerational program. They are going to transfer this knowledge to the young ones, and the young ones are also... One important thing about the program that I want to tell you is that all the trainings and actually the research, all the training materials are all in the local languages of these farmers. In the Gambia, we have 2 major spoken languages, Wolof and Mandinka, And all the training programs or materials are being translated to Wolof and Mandinka for them to be able to understand. So we train these farmers in their own languages, help them to understand in their own language, and then that is going to stay with them for generations. The soil data is also going to be used to generate income because the soil doctors are conducting research for other farmers at a very low, very low cost, like $20 per hectare. Now, if you want to conduct research on soil, a hectare is going to cost you thousands of dollars. But with the program, we can actually make it cost like $20 for them. The soil information system is also going to be useful because people are going to pay like a subscription of $5 to $6 to actually access the soil information. So this is the final message, calling all of you to join and support the program because we think this is going to revive lives and lands in the continent. So these are some of the strategic partners: the government of the Gambia through the ministry, the AUC, FAO, Africa Civil Society Biodiversity Alliance, which I saw the coordinator sitting behind, the GSP, some universities in China, the Beijing Academy of Agriculture and Forestry Sciences, China Biodiversity, the G20, and I thank you all for your kind attention.
Brilliant, thank you very much indeed. I wonder if you could just, before we hear from our next speaker, just grab your microphone for me, just very quickly. I may have missed it. What's your pH at now?
So actually, according to our soil fertility mapping, the pH is at 5.
5. Okay,
Yes.
so I understand that there are some plants that would grow below pH 6. What are you trying to raise the pH to?
We are trying to neutralize the pH, to get it to 6.5
Okay.
to 7 to 7.5. Yeah.
Okay, and what plants are you hoping to grow in that?
Mainly we are doing groundnuts for now.
Groundnuts.
Yes, because groundnut actually needs calcium to develop in terms of the pot formation, in terms of quantity, but also be resistant to pest and disease attack. So
Okay.
it is helping the whole
Okay.
life chain of the
Yeah.
groundnut, the
Okay.
shoot system, the root system,
All right.
and the
Sorry to
production
interrupt.
as
I
well.
just wanted to
Thank
get
you.
the statistics right for the pH. We'll come back to that in our discussion.
Very well.
Okay, joining us now is Anna Di Pangrazio. And this is a lady who brings 17 years of experience in civil society. She has been striving for environmental protection. She understands environmental law inside out. So this is an important element of restoring land. And she works particularly in land use planning within wetlands, native forest management, and in as much as she can do in all her projects, she believes in a human rights approach to conservation. Anna, welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to present our work here at the Restoration Pavilion. I will briefly share our work in the Santa Catalina wetland, an urban wetland in the Matanza Riachuelo Basin, based in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but this is supposed to be an interactive map showing you where Argentina is, and then zooming in our in the area where we are working on. But just to highlight that Santa Catalina is located in the Lomas de Zamora district, that is the southern periphery of Greater Buenos Aires. Surrounded by an urban matrix of more than 800,000 inhabitants. It is the easternmost relict of the lowlands of the Matanza Riachuelo Basin, one of the most polluted basins in Argentina. It includes the city of Buenos Aires and 14 municipalities, and a national basin authority oversees the whole work in the basin when it comes to governmental involvement. But zooming into Santa Catalina wetland, it is the largest green area in the district, representing 7% of its surface area. It covers 670 hectares, and it includes a 45-hectare lagoon. It is home to relictual areas of declining native ecosystems in the province and the country. Such as dry xerophilous forests known as talares, and pampas grasslands and shrublands. Santa Catalina's biodiversity includes diverse environments ranging from native and planted forests to grasslands, marshes, and riparian vegetation. There are over 200 bird species have been recorded in the area. That represents 55% of Buenos Aires province bird species and 20% nationally. There are over 800 species of plants, 400 species of fungi and algae, and at least 1,800 species of arthropods. It is also an important biocultural hub. Santa Catalina wetlands and the surrounding area host educational and research institutions, including a national university. It hosts more than 10 historic buildings from the 19th century. It was one of the very first Scottish settlements in Argentina, which witnessed the area's history. It also hosts agricultural parcels and a model goat milking parlor. It was declared, due to its relevance in terms of fungi, mycological reserve in the 80s, national historic site in the 60s, and a provincial historic site in the 90s, provincial natural reserve in 2011 after a very big community campaign to protect the wetland, its grasslands, and associated native forest, and more recently was declared municipal historic heritage site. So this builds the support that we will be receiving from this grant from the Global Land Initiative from the G20 builds on work that we've been doing for almost 10 years in the area together with local actors. So since 2015, FARM, my organization, in collaboration with the local organization Pilmaiken and the Museum of Agrobotany, History and Nature of the National University of Lomas de Zamora, has contributed with biota surveys and restoration, which includes managing and extraction of exotic species, planting of native species, and periodic maintenance. The achievement so far has been to have 4.5 hectares under ecological restoration, planting of over 1,000 exemplars of 50 native species, surveys of flora and fauna, and the very first archaeological excavations in the area as well that seem to be very promising, maybe finding remains from the colonial times, and new species even discovered thanks to the biota surveys that we are carrying out. 6 species new to science, 4 species new to the Buenos Aires province, and 1 species exotic to Argentina. All this information is then published in papers and congresses, conferences, etc. We have also built viewpoints, interpretative trails, and signaling. Educational activities average 800 students yearly from primary, secondary school. We have developed also building facilities and showcasing improvements in the museum, related biocultural activities directly benefiting 2,000 students from schools and universities, including a biocultural festival in 2022, attended by over 300 people, and that included a lot of community groups nearby Santa Catalina to show the work that they're doing defending our natural green and blue spaces in the Matanza Riachuelo Basin. So the next steps with this grant support will be building on the work that we've done so far, to develop 2 digital guides documenting the biodiversity of the wetland, educational materials to distribute when these hundreds of students visit the place, an audiovisual series, stories from Santa Catalina, supplies for the native plants nursery that is the very own of the wetland, and that even provides also exemplars of native plants to other nearby wetlands for its restoration purposes as well. Small stipends for students assisting in the nursery, also to encourage that they do the practices from the university and they engage in the protection of the wetland, and equipment such as a drone for monitoring purposes, photo camera, binoculars, and a monocular for activities with the community. So you can find more information at this link. This initiative, restoration initiative we have in Santa Catalina wetland, is part of a more integral initiative that we have for the whole basin, that we call a biocultural corridor, that it highlights the natural and cultural heritage of this basin, that even though it is degraded, we want to say that we state that it's important to carry out the cleanup process of the basin. That is actually a mandate coming from the judiciary in Argentina and implemented by the dedicated basin authority that we have in place. So I invite you to find out more about this initiative. Thank you very much.
Anna, thank you very much. I'll ask you to keep your microphone. Our final speaker hails from Cameroon, Sunday Jeffrey Mbafombe. He's the executive coordinator of the Support Humanity Cameroon program. His particular interest is working with women and the youth, particularly those in marginalized local communities. He's also a trained climate reality leader and has served as the African Climate Reality Project Volunteer Regional Coordinator for Central Africa between 2021 and 2023. Sunday, it's yours. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you. If you were born in a farming family and you grew up working with your parents on the farm, and at one point you realize that climate change and land degradation was affecting lives in your community, and people were losing lives and their livelihoods. Water sources were running dry, and crops cultivation were failing. And as a farming family, you go to bed hungry. What will you do? Join the majority in your community to complain, or join the few to take action? I choose the latter, to join the few to take action in my community. In 2018, I graduated from International Relations Institute in Cameroon, and I decided to establish Support Humanity Cameroon, a platform that I thought, where I'm engaging young people in rural communities to transform lives and enhance community ability to combat climate change and land degradation. In 2019, we launched our flagship program, the Bamokumbit Integrated Community Forest Restoration Initiative. And the goal of this initiative was to restore the ecosystem and biodiversity function of 151 hectares of degraded land while enhancing local livelihood. So the Bamokumbit Integrated Community Forest is located in the Bamenda Ecological Highland Area. In the Bamenda Ecological Highland Area, and this highland area is a shared landscape between pastoralists and farming communities. So since 2019, when we initiated this, when we launched this initiative, you can see from the map the transformation, the natural transformation that is happening on this landscape. We have been able to empower and engage over 300 community volunteers to plant 35,000 trees, indigenous trees within this landscape. We have restored and supported the natural regeneration of over 30 hectares of degraded forest and agro-pastoral lands. We have also empowered and engaged over 500 smallholder farmers to engage in agroforestry practices. We have trained and provided support to 65 Mbororo households and engaged them in establishing regenerative farms. So one good thing about our project is that it is community-led, and the communities are considered as partners and involved as partners in the whole process. They're involved in the planning, They engage through consultative meetings and actively participate in local dialogues. We ensure that we work very closely with traditional and religious leaders and that we enhance collaboration between the different groups within this landscape. So our impact has actually gone beyond just restoring the environment, but also to create social and economic opportunities. Hundreds of persons have been impacted, have been given alternative livelihood support. Through our water initiative, over 4,000 persons have been impacted. So today we have an opportunity to engage with the G20 small grants to implement a core component of this initiative, which is the restoration of the Mbimbo water catchment. So the goal of this project will be to enhance the engagement of indigenous and local communities in the sustainable restoration of the degraded Mbimbo riparian forest. And this forest, water forest, is situated in the Ngokutunje Plateau of the northwest region of Cameroon. And the core activities of our project will be to establish a 10,000 solar powered nursery. Because we believe that any sustainable restoration initiative must be able to source its nursery. And from the experience we've had over 5 years, we realized that when we establish a nursery closer to a restoration site, first we're able to source quality seedlings and we're able to have high rates of survival, tree survival within the project time frame. So we'll also be engaging communities in tree planting and supported natural regeneration activities. We'll build the capacity, we'll establish the water management committee and build the capacities of local actors, the traditional leaders and the religious leaders, so they can effectively participate in the project monitoring. So we're also providing alternative livelihood support to 100 youth and women from the pastoralists and local communities in the area of beekeeping. You understand that communities in the northwest region are located in the northwest region are actually facing a lot of challenges. Socio-political crisis that has been going on now for 8 years, and of course the environmental and climate challenges. So most of these communities are in their needs of livelihood support, and that is why we thought that it was very important to have the livelihood and alternative livelihood component within this project. So our primary beneficiaries of this project will be the diverse water user groups. We are really targeting diverse user water groups, from the pastoralists, the smallholder farmers, the fisher folks, and the sand miners. Because these are the various water user groups that has been fighting each other. They have been over the decades. They have been having conflicts because of the degradation of catchment areas. So we saw an opportunity to engage with the G20 through the G20 project to bring these water groups together, so they can be able to have a dialogue. They can be able to start working together. They can be able to start managing their water resources together. And then we'll be able to go beyond just restoring the environment to creating an enabling environment for community development. So you see, this is one of the activities we had with the communities, engaging them and sensitizing them to participate in the project activities. So at the outcome of this project, we intend to plant 9,000 trees and restore 10 hectares of degraded land. And we also intend to enhance over 100, provide livelihood opportunities to 100 persons from 100 households from the farming and grazing communities. So the key approaches that we'll be using will be to raise awareness and organize capacity building. We'll do reforestation and supported natural regeneration. We also promote regenerative agriculture and sustainable beekeeping for livelihoods. I've mentioned that already. And we also want to ensure that we have participatory monitoring and evaluation, because we have the responsibility to be accountable to these communities. And we cannot be accountable to them if they are not part of the process. They are part of the planning, and they must be part of the implementation, and they must be part of the monitoring and evaluation. So you see, we are directly engaging with these communities. And yes, the decisions, the activities we have today are a true reflection of their aspiration and meet their immediate needs. So we'll be happy to have the opportunity to partner with you to be able to scale these initiatives to other communities in the Bamenda Ecological Highlands, but also to develop the ecotourism opportunities that we have within this landscape. Thank you so much.
Sunday, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. We are very, very pressed on time, unfortunately. So just to make sure that I get your feedback from the audience, would anyone like to put a question to our panelists or make a comment or share an experience before I put my questions? Yes, the gentleman at the back at the desk. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Harrison Noko, the Executive Director of an NGO, EJASH, based in Cameroon. I'm actually one of the beneficiaries of the G20. Wonderful initiative that you guys are doing. Our project also aligned with what my brother from Cameroon just presented, but now in the southwestern part of Cameroon, he's in the northwestern part of Cameroon. Not really a question, but contribution, especially to my brother from the Gambia. What you're doing is wonderful, and we are actually doing same now in Cameroon, but not within the G20 program. But I think we could collaborate on that because we are now looking at aspect of soil analysis, looking at the DNA of soils within restored or degraded areas. And so presently we've set up a laboratory where we're doing analysis of soil quality rating and soil DNA, looking at the pH like you asked, and looking at how this will enhance biodiversity and soil management. So I think it's an opportunity for us to look at how we work on this and how to increase productivity and production of farmers' product, looking at how this will help to enhance land management. That was just my little contribution. Thank you.
That's fantastic. That's why we're here. It's about sharing and making those collaborations. So, Brima, I'm going to come to you first off, obviously, because you were the first to speak. And I want to pick up on this idea of restored lands and using the oyster shells and the sustainable aspect of it, the long-term aspect of it. I was watching what you were saying, what you were presenting, and the oyster shells. You have access to the oyster shells, clearly, so it's not going to waste. But I just want to understand your thinking in terms of why did you go to changing the pH of the soil, which is extremely difficult because it's such a long-term thing, because these things change eventually. The inherent pH is very difficult to change. So why is it you went down that route rather than matching up appropriate plants that would grow? And I know peanuts do, but obviously there are things like sorghum, there's millet, which would support foraging for livelihoods, for livestock as well. There's cassava. I just want to know that decision-making process. Why did you go down that route? And long-term, how can you continue to have access to oyster shells?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. That's a very good question, actually. So looking at our approach, it's not only to enhance production, but to revive the soil, the land as well. And soil acidity actually affects the soil ecosystem. The biosphere inside the soil is being affected by the soil acidity. Soil is actually a living thing. Soil is a living thing. It has a lot of biodiversity in it. How do you ensure that the biodiversity in the soil is actually thriving? Is to ensure that the soil is suitable for it to survive. If it is very acidic, the biodiversity in the soil is going to be seriously affected. It's not able to withstand that level of acidity, and that is going to continue. If the acidity is not neutralized, then the acidity is going to fall low and low and low, which is going to be very, very serious to the soil and the soil living organisms. So, on the other side of the question, we think the oyster is very abundant in the Gambia. Every year we are harvesting, or the oyster harvesters are harvesting about 1,700 tons of oysters in the Gambia, oyster cells, which is actually disposed. So we think the oyster is going to be available even in scaling up the program. We've even started a conversation with a private sector company to provide them with the science and help them to able to actually commercialize this product, so that even if you have to scale up the program to other countries or even to more farmers in the communities, then it's available for them. Because right now, we are using the communities to actually grind this oyster.
Okay, and just very quickly, just finally, I'm assuming that because you've chosen peanuts, it's for the nitrogen fixing element of them, and that is put back into the soil as humus, is that right? As humus? Yeah.
So
okay.
the groundnuts actually, if you look at the pods of the groundnut, they actually survive with the calcium element.
Yeah.
They need that calcium in order for it to be developed, to be very much developed.
Okay.
But also it helps the groundnut to withstand diseases and even pests. If you actually keep two types of groundnut, the one that is actually grown in a basic in a neutralized soil with high calcium, and the one that doesn't have high calcium, you realize that the one that doesn't have high calcium will actually perish before the one that is grown in a calcium situation. Yeah.
Okay. Ibrahim, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Any comments on what you've just heard? Yes, of course. Can we get the microphone to the lady, please?
Can I speak French?
In French? I can pick some up. But is anyone strong with French to English? Anyone here? Yes, of course. Okay, could we get a second microphone to the gentleman here, if possible? Madam, if you could start speaking, and then the gentleman will translate.
Okay. Merci à tout le monde. Merci pour les différentes présentations. Et j'ai une question par rapport à ce que M. Zara a dit de Gambie. Et il dit ici que dans son allocution qu'en Gambie, les sols sont acidifiés. Et à travers un appui des États-Unis, ils ont réussi à faire les études. Ils ont su que c'est l'acidification qui fait le faible rendement de l'agriculture et aussi l'intensité de l'agriculture fait aussi dégrade aussi la terre. Et moi, j'aimerais savoir.
Okay, just your question very quickly. Could you just tell us your question? Sorry, we've only got. Yeah. Ouais.
Donc, dans son allocution,
Merci.
il a mentionné que les terres gambiennes sont faibles sont dégradées par rapport à l'acidification. Est-ce que c'est bon?
Okay. That in your discussion, you said that the Gambian soils are degraded as a result of the acidification of the soil.
Et ma question ici est par rapport à ce qu'il a dit et les recherches qui sont faites avec les États-Unis, qu'est-ce qui a causé l'acidification de ces terres et aussi quelles solutions il envisage pour vraiment atténuer ou limiter l'acidification des terres afin que les agriculteurs aient un rendement meilleur ici.
Okay, so this is the question. With regard to the research you carried out with the United States Institute, what did you find out as the causes of the acidification of the soil? And what are some of the solutions you brought in to make sure that you make the situation better for local farmers?
Just very quickly, sorry, very quickly.
So actually, I've actually explained how this is done, and research was not conducted in the United States. It was done in the Gambia. So the soil is very acidic because of prolonged cultivation of the soil without proper sustainable management. There are also other activities that might cause acidity, like the addition of these mineral fertilizers. Some of them are also acidic in nature, and that is also going to increase the acidity of the soil.
Okay.
So these are some of the causes. And the oyster, because it is base, it has calcium, it is base. When you put it in the soil, it neutralizes acidity.
So it's past mismanagement of soil.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm so sorry, Ibrahim, I'm so sorry. But I can see the next the next event in the background. And I'm going to come to you. And obviously your initiative includes educational initiatives themselves. You've got the stories from Santa Catalina that you mentioned. How do you envision storytelling efforts adding to your work, enhancing your work? How important is that? And if you could also very quickly just add on the new species that you found.
Yes.
Can they be protected?
Yes. Well, in Argentina, we say that you cannot protect what you don't know. It might sound as a cliche, but it's a fact, really. So what we look for with this audiovisual, we have already 2 audiovisuals that is more in general about the biodiversity of the wetlands, but now we want to put a face to those people doing this collective community effort to protect the wetlands, that are working at the museum, that are professors at university, students, but also children and teenagers visiting yearly the wetland. Many times these students come from situations of vulnerability, living in shanty towns with very harsh realities. And when they visit the wetlands, many times they are moved to tears because it's the very first time they get to get some contact with a natural space that takes them out from their harsh reality. And then they go back to the school and they continue analyzing and finding out more about the wetland. So hopefully that will also contribute not only to showcase how children and teenagers feel when they visit this wetland, not very far away from their school and homes, but also the whole community effort that it's behind it. I think that will make a difference. And then when it comes to the bird species, the area is protected as a natural reserve, but the challenge, I think, in many of our countries is full implementation. So we are doing not only this communication, educational work, but also advocacy work, so that the authorities in charge of implementing the reserve actually do it. And gathering all this information is key to say we are making these discoveries, we are advancing in this restoration work. It is clear that you need to finally advance on effective implementation.
Anna, thank you very much indeed. And finally, Sunday, I'm going to come to you. The solar panel project sounds wonderful, and like I said, an obvious link. In what way do you think the longer term impacts of such a project will benefit the local community? And when it comes to solar power, do you envision the fact that it could, or there is local capacity within the grid? Because that is a lot of potential energy. Or will it all be used in the nursery? And if you could also make it very brief, a second question, just so I'm fair with everyone. The classification software that you use there, software is not cheap. I just wanted to know if you're having support from organizations, school, universities to help you with land use classification, to map and to follow your progress.
Thank you. We work in local communities where over 95% of the population depend on agriculture, and in recent decades we have been having significant changes in rainfall patterns, and this means the whole agricultural system is being disrupted. So we have been having reflections on how we can support smallholder farmers to be able to scale their production, and this is how the idea about of the solar powered irrigation system for our nursery came about. So we partnered in 2022 with the Global Landscape Forum and the Robert Bosch Foundation to actually establish one solar irrigation system for our nursery. And what we realized was that with the increasing warming weather and prolonged dry season, we're able to have a regulated water supply for our nursery. And now we want to do a test. We want to scale this to see how we can use this solar water irrigation to support smallholder farmers, okay. Right?
So my question was, do you have capacity within, for example, the local grid to store the energy? I mean, how is it going to work?
Yes, we have, it's a complete system. It has a storage system, and we use solar to actually power this. Yeah, so we have a complete system. And it's working already. But what we want to do now is just to scale it to increase the size of our nursery, and also to start extending to support more smallholder farmers.
Okay.
And talking about the use of technology, I just want to say that technology is quite expensive, and that is why, personally, I don't just advocate for technology transfer. I actually advocate for technology development, because transfer will mean that we continue depending on external support. We want to see how we can actually develop local capacities and have people within these communities operate the available technology. Today we are using facilities, technological facilities. Yesterday we were discussing with a potential partner to use drones to do our monitoring. But can we continue to depend on external support? We want to develop local support so we can actually be able to do this. And that's why we're very open for partnership and also for support from people with this competence.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I hate rushing you because you've all got such amazing stories to tell. But we do have our next event waiting in the wings. Sunday, Ibrahim, Anna, Joanne, my colleague, thank you very much indeed. And please, ladies and gentlemen, do grab our speakers to find out more. They have so much more to tell you. And they've got the experience so you don't make the mistakes. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Could we just have a photo quickly, please?